Well, hello guys and welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be discussing have Microsoft failed old COD games on Game Pass. Yes, I'm going to be discussing something that I didn't really want to be discussing, but I feel like it needs to be discussed now, especially with the fact that we haven't really seen much movement when it comes to old Call of Duty games on Game Pass. Not a lot has been said, not a lot has been done, and I want to talk about that and see and discuss with you guys whether or not Microsoft have failed with old Call of Duty games on Game Pass. Something that we've all wanted, something that we've all been dying for and wishing for. But so far, we haven't seen a lot of it. But at the same time, we are going to be playing Black Ops 1 in the year 2026. This game is still able to get on, I guess. You know, you can still get onto the game. I want to see how alive it is, see if it's playable, and just see what the gist is with Black Ops 1. Kind of going through at the moment, just playing all these games in 2026 and seeing what's playable, what's not. We did Black Ops 2 the other day, of course. Black Ops 2 is alive. Barely. Black Ops 1 so far says it has 0 players online, which is very worrying. I'd be shocked if that's the case, but so far it's showing 0 available for every playlist. So let's see if that's actually true. And we've got connecting symbols, so that's not a good sign either. But let's see if there's any hackers, cheaters, and whether or not the game's actually alive. But right now we've found a lobby with nobody in it, so that's not a very good sign. But we're going to see anyway. We're going to see if we can hopefully find a lobby and get into actually playing Black Ops 1 in 2026. But this is also a good showcase as to why Microsoft have failed old COD games on Game Pass. 2-3 years ago now, when Microsoft purchased out Activision, we all thought this was it. We're going to get old Call of Duty games on the Game Pass. We all thought this was going to be the revival, especially with the things that have happened. Let's talk about the things that happened all them years ago. Remember when these old Call of Duty games were completely unplayable? Like, the servers didn't work in that, but every single old Call of Duty game seemed to have got their servers, like, fixed and changed, and there was a big change. Wow, we found a lobby. Okay, so we found a lobby. That's a good sign. So at least there's something. This game is hanging on by a string, but we found a lobby. And it was pretty quick, though, to be fair, like, as long as I researched for a game. But let's get into it. Let's use the FAMAS, of course, the glorious FAMAS from Black Ops 1, and see how we can do. And let's get a kill on the board. Why not, right? Why not? Let's see what we can do. But yeah, Black Ops 1 in the year 2026. At least we're able to come on and play it, just about. Again, not the greatest map I wanted to play on. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big fan of Havana, but still, it's better than most of the maps we play nowadays. But let's see if anybody's hacking, let's see if anybody's cheating. You know, that is obviously a common issue with these old COD games, which does, well, seem to exist. And Microsoft really haven't done anything about this at all, which, again, I get it. I understand it, not really fixing the games, but not even making them available to be played through Game Pass is something I just can't understand, especially as, like, you know, we'd probably accept it. It would at least make it less likely to find a cheater, which would be at least nice. That's something that I think would be a big benefit of the Game Pass, you know, for these old COD games. And, you know, as we saw there, I had a slight issue to begin with to finding a game. But, you know, as long as you find a lobby with 11 decent other people who don't want to cheat, it's not a bad experience, you know. Yes, these games still have their issues. They're also, you know, host dedicated, etc. They're not proper actual servers, you know, which does make a bit harder because you're obviously dealing with people's random connections. You're going to have someone who's going to host the games and probably have not such a great connection. Someone's got an SR-71 here, so someone's going crazy, but a proper Blackbird, by the way, not like the modern games where, like, you can be shut down and stuff. This was, you got a Blackbird, you got a Blackbird. You were able to use this thing, abuse this thing. This was proper kill streaks, okay? Proper kill streaks. And look at that, split screener. Anybody remember split screeners? Does anybody even play split screen nowadays? That's something I have to ask. Split screen, but it's still a thing in these games. Oh, my terrible aim is also a thing in this game. But split screening, what a great thing that was. Split screening was actually really good in this game as well, I'll be honest. And I got my own SR-71. Oh, we got a noob tube, of course we did. But we got our own SR-71s. Let's go. Let's go ham. We'll obviously find a lobby. Anyway, I'm trying to talk about Microsoft failing the games. I've actually enjoyed myself, which is not a good showcase. But there you go. So Black Ops 1's playable in 2026. We are actually going to play another game because that was very quick. Didn't even actually get to use my SR-71. But as you can see, these games are enjoyable still, by the way. This is why it annoys me that Microsoft haven't done enough with these old COD games, because these still hold the test of time. When you can get into a lobby, when you can find a match that hasn't got a bad server and haven't got someone who's a bad host, etc., and someone who's not cheating and ruining the lobby, all these different variables that you got to get around to even play the game, the games are still great. They're still enjoyable, and I do think people would come back and play these. That's why I can't understand why we're not doing enough. And when I say we, I'm talking about Microsoft and Activision as well, because obviously Activision probably do have a little bit of a say and probably are even stopping this from happening to obviously stop people from playing the modern games to go back and play these games. Because one big announcement, let's say they go, boom, Black Ops 1 on Game Pass, it might do quite well for the first one. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it would last for a very long time, but it'd be nice to have the ability to do so. Why is it just not on there? What's the point? Like, you know, they're putting the Game Pass subscription up every so often. Well, make my money's worth. Give me my old Call of Duty games on that Game Pass. You know, so far we've seen modern MW2, we've seen modern MW3, we've seen Black Ops 7. Obviously, they now release the modern Call of Duty games on Game Pass as a nice, you know, selling point. You know, get Game Pass, you get Call of Duty on release. Obviously, you have to buy the highest tier subscription for that, but it's a selling point, right? And then the only old Call of Duty game, the only one we've had, and it doesn't make sense to me. It never made sense to me why they went with this, but Call of Duty World War II. They didn't even do, I don't know, there's no like chronological order to that. They just randomly went, yeah, go for it, Call of Duty World War II. And that obviously was a mess in itself, because another problem that people have said with obviously old CODs and Game Pass is that they should fix them before they put on there. Now, I get it with these games, the 360 Call of Duties, I get them not going back and fixing them. There's so much that needs doing. Theater mode glitches on certain games. You know, there's so much that needs fixing on these old Call of Duty games that I think it's too much of a task for how little of a reward it's going to be for Activision Microsoft, which, you know, I have to put it out there because obviously, you know, they want to make money on these games. You know, they want to make as much money. That's kind of the idea, right? The only reason they do it is for money, etc. Now, obviously, these games have DLCs, which are still payable. Like, you can buy the DLCs. Now, can you probably play them? Absolutely not, because most of them are... The way DLCs work back in these games is if you bought DLC for these old COD games, especially like map DLCs, and to play those maps, other people would have to have those DLCs, of course. So if you can't find people with those DLCs, you're not going to be playing people at all. You're not going to be able to use those DLCs. The only thing it's useful for is zombies, of course, which is a nice touch. But yeah, it doesn't seem like Microsoft are really doing a lot when it comes to putting old COD games on Game Pass. They're not really doing anything at all. And it's a shame, really, because it kind of defeats the point of why did they fix the servers for these games in the first place? Why all these moments where we had like lots of hype for these games, you know, and just all the little things they were doing that made us seem like it was going to happen. But here we are in 2026, and we're no closer to that. We're not anywhere closer to seeing old Call of Duty games on the Game Pass. And it's something that I just don't think is going to happen anytime soon. Is he shooting me through the wall? Sounded like someone was trying to shoot me through the wall there. But wouldn't surprise me either, because obviously we got cheater issues, right? As much as I haven't run into any so far, which is a nice thing so far, is a nice thing to see. Again, don't get me wrong, there could be a cheater, and I might just not notice. There's so many different ways to cheat at these old Call of Duty games. You just have to accept that that is the reality, is that, you know, you could be against a cheater, you could not be against a cheater. I don't know, I just feel that Microsoft aren't doing enough. And I want you guys to let me know down in the comments, though. Let me know, do you think Microsoft are doing a bad job when it comes to old Call of Duty games on Game Pass? Because this is kind of what I've made. As much as I wanted to come back and play Black Ops 1 in 2026, you know, showcase to you guys whether or not it's playable and whether or not you should go back and play this game. Which, if you can get into a lobby and it's working fine, by the way, like, absolutely, because Black Ops 1 is a great masterpiece. My first ever Call of Duty game, by the way. I don't know if any of you guys knew that. It was actually my first game that I ever played, and so this game holds a special place in my heart. Like, I really enjoyed this game. I still think the game is genuinely great to play now, but it is if you can find a good lobby, if you can find servers that are, you know, a reasonable connection server. There's a lot of if, buts, and maybes as to whether or not you should be playing Black Ops 1 in 2026. There's not much else I could really say, but I just think Microsoft haven't done enough. They've not gone out and fixed servers. They've not gone out and like stopped cheaters. They've not gone out and released the actual Call of Duty games we want to see. The only thing they did was Call of Duty World War II, which was okay for Xbox users and stuff, like, absolutely. But if you were someone who was playing on PC, you know that wasn't the case. You know that it was a completely kettle of fish when it came to you guys playing old COD games in 2020, well, on Call of Duty World War II, etc. Because it didn't... Whoa, triple there, that's crazy. That was a little bit nutty. Let's see if we can get a nice little streak going. Somebody's down here messing around with the ladder. Up, down, left, right. He doesn't know what he's doing. But it is a shame. I just think these games deserve so much better. These would be played nowadays. That's what I don't understand. Like, if Microsoft wanted to showcase the Game Pass and get the Game Pass rolling and, you know, get people more on board. I mean, Call of Duty is still as popular as ever, right? And there we go. Let's get a SR71. Like, these games, you know, no skill-based matchmaking. It was just straight. You hop on, you play, and you do what you do, right? Like, this was no nonsense. This wasn't about algorithms. This wasn't about how many, you know, store bundles you could sell. This wasn't about profits, etc. These were just proper Call of Duty games. Great maps, great weapons. And everyone grew up with these. I can't imagine anybody watching this video hasn't played Black Ops 1. But then again, let's talk about that. What if you're someone who's not played Black Ops 1? What if you're someone who's never, ever played Call of Duty? Like, these older COD games. You guys want to play these games, don't you? I'd imagine. The fact that they're not on the Game Pass means that you can't, unless you go out and buy a disc that hopefully works, because obviously discs are a bit here, there, and everywhere. And that's another point. Like, if you don't put it on the Game Pass, eventually, you know, discs don't last forever. People aren't going to be able to play these games, because the only way you can play this is through getting a disc, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you cannot download this from the store. I could be wrong. If that is the case, then of course great, but I'm pretty sure... Actually, no, you can. But I bet you it's like 30 quid on the Microsoft Store. It should be on the Game Pass. That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys, let me know in the comments, what do you think? But I'll sound off with Black Ops 1. 2026, is it playable? Absolutely. Is it falling apart? A little bit. You know, 0 players online. There are players online. It's still playable. You can find a lobby. It takes a little bit of effort, but you can find a lobby. I didn't run into a cheater. There might be less cheaters because obviously loads of people are playing the modern games at the moment, because Black Ops 7 obviously quite fresh, quite new. So it's not too bad, but it is playable in 2026. Barely. Just about. But I want to sound off with Microsoft should be doing more to fix old COD games, or at least doing something with old Call of Duty games. At least put them on the Game Pass, even in their current state. That way, if there's more people to play a match against, that's less cheaters to run into. That's less issues to run into if you find a decent lobby. I don't know. You guys let me know down below. Do you think Microsoft have failed old COD games on Game Pass? I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe with notifications on. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.